The more you know about something, the more you know about a lion, the less you fear it because you know how to take him down. But the more you learn about Allah, the more you fear him. That shows how great Allah is. You know, it's like Imam Shafi'i said that every single time I learn something, I realize how ignorant I was before. Ilm is the lost treasure of the believer. And he'll find it from wherever he gets it. It doesn't matter if the teacher's rude. It doesn't matter if you don't have time. It's your lost treasure. Why would you not go and get it? You know, someone gave you gold. You'd go run and get it. This is lost treasure.
As many people know and understand, in the religion and the framework of Islam, we believe that our life has been created for us to be tested. Who's the best indeed? We often hear the concepts of I'm working to survive or I live to work. What do they actually mean? And what does it mean for a Muslim who has to seek knowledge in order for him to implement? And today we have a guest, Abu Salih, who has been on both sides of the coin, who can further elaborate on the importance of these type of things, inshallah ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you doing, bro?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
You know, it's weird because we've known each other for years, but this is the first time you invite me.
Good things come to those who wait. That's what they say, right? Yeah. Inshallah, the time now is right. We've both matured in certain ways, alhamdulillah. So we've both been through this experience, right?
Yeah.
Where we spent a portion of our life in the classes seeking a form of knowledge.
And through poverty.
And poverty and not having money and so on and so forth. And then we went into work and then we're busy with work. So how do you find the balance and what is the foundation? How can we start this discussion where people who maybe in this predicament, who think, you know, seeking knowledge is, I have to now leave the world behind, and let's start this discussion, inshallah.
You know, in all honesty, there is no balance. If we're being really completely honest with each other, there is no balance. One has to be sacrificed. And, you know, the Prophet ﷺ said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيَضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, that seeking knowledge is obligatory on every single Muslim. To get that part of knowledge, you can do it while you're working. You know, you can attend online classes, you can go on YouTube, you can watch for 1 hour a day. A lot of us don't. That's our naqs, but that doesn't mean we can't do it while we're working. But to really seek knowledge, to memorize mutun, to memorize alfiyat, to memorize the Quran, you need a part of you that's like, this is left for just that. And that's what the scholars, when they say that knowledge is an ocean, whoever gives knowledge little, knowledge will not give him anything. But whoever gives knowledge a lot, knowledge will give him a little of himself. Now, the meaning of this, and as my mashayikh said, that the meaning of this is not that you leave everything for seeking knowledge, but you leave what you have of free. What you have of nafila, what you have of supererogatory time, you give it for seeking knowledge. So if you're working 9 to 5, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., you're working, you go back to your family for 4 hours, you spend it with them. Then the last 2 hours, the last 1 hour that you have, the last half an hour that you have, that you know you can relax or whatever, you don't do that, you give it to seeking knowledge. And I know Allah will make for you a way out in order for you to seek knowledge. It's more intense.
What's really interesting is that we live in a world where the schooling system seems to be the be all and end all for everyone, right?
Yeah.
We prioritize our kids going to school. We'll make, you know, cross a mountain for that child to go to school, drop it off, pick it up, X, Y, and Z. But you see those same individuals don't make that much effort to this Islamic type of knowledge because they don't have the level of value it deserves. So I think from what we know that from the Quran, the Sunnah, and the Sahaba and the ulama, what is the importance and the value of this knowledge?
You know, there's 2 reasons. I'll first answer why that happens. There's 2 reasons why. It's because when you go to school, they're not making you into a leader. They're making you into a worker. Into a worker of the system. And the system doesn't value Islam. The system doesn't value the deen. The system doesn't value religion. It just values you being a cog in the machine and getting your يوم قوت اليومي, getting your daily bread, and خلاص مع السلامة. That's not what the system values. And I believe that a part of that has crept into the understanding of the people in terms of they value what the system valued, because that's what happened 30, 40 years ago, is that they needed the bread, you know, and they forgot about the knowledge. In terms of how important this knowledge is, this knowledge is as important as your life. You value your life, right?
Yeah, of course we do. Yeah, we hope we value our life.
That's how important
someone listening may say,
is.
okay, knowledge is important, the value of life. Give me a reason. How? Why?
This knowledge is your Jannah Jahannam. The more you learn about Allah, the more you will go into Jannah. More possibility of Allah's mercy coming upon you. Allah said in the Quran, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء.
That's right.
That the ones who fear Allah the most, yakhsha is the ones who fear Allah the most. From His servants is the scholars. Why do they fear Allah the most? It's because, and this is such a weird thing, yeah? Every single thing in the dunya that you learn about, you fear it less. The more you know about something, the more you know about a lion, the less you fear it, because you know how to take him down. But the more you learn about Allah, the more you fear Him. That shows how great Allah is.
Of course.
And that's what knowledge is. It's learning about Allah. The highest form of knowledge is learning His names and attributes. Why? Because it's learning about who you're worshipping. Some of the scholars, they said that if you don't know Allah, you've never worshipped Him. And you could do so many salawat and siyam, and you could do hajj, you could do umrah, but you never knew Allah when you were doing those actions. And subhanAllah, that's the value of this knowledge. It's your connection with Allah.
Some people may be watching and saying, okay, it sounds cool, it sounds really important. I have a good connection with Allah and I work a 9 to 5, and you know, I'm not seeking knowledge. I love Allah and I pray and I read Quran and all these sort of deeds. So why is it important for me to increase in that? Why do I need to study more? Why do I need to know more information? Why? I already have in my heart the love for Allah.
You don't know Allah as He deserves to be known. I mean, that's not really possible. The more you learn, the more you will get closer to it, but you won't really ever know Allah the way that He deserves to be known, right? But also another thing is that there are levels to this. So let's say just this most simplest thing, Surah Al-Fatiha. Surah Al-Fatiha. Not even Surah Al-Fatiha, but the meaning of the first few words of Surah Al-Fatiha, right? Alhamdulillah. Do you know what the meaning of Alhamdulillah is?
Elaborate.
And this is something that a lot of Muslims, they just recite it in Salah. And they don't really understand the greatness of it. Alhamdulillah. So if we go and we say that, you know what, from a knowledge perspective, how do we break it down? Alif Lam is it's making hamd, the verb, the masdar, ma'rifah, right? It's making the word known. It's making it something specific. The Alif Lam over here is min صيغة الاستغراقية. It's something known in Balagha as istighraqiyya, which means every single type of hamd. Every single type of hamd that is given. Whether the doctor...
Hamd meaning praise.
We'll get to hamd.
Okay.
We'll get to it. But first, I'm just focusing on the Alif Lam here. It's every single type of hamd. Whether the doctor gives hamd, whether the parents give the doctor hamd, whether the fish in the sea give hamd, it's all for Allah. This word hamd, it's all of it goes back to Allah, directly or indirectly. That's what the Alif Lam just gives. And then we go to hamd. The meaning of hamd is something that is thanks to you for what you do, and also thanks to you for who you are. Do you understand?
Yes.
So there is a discussion within Ahlul Ilm as to what is hamd and what is shukr, and what's the difference between them. And by the difference, you can know the meaning of hamd. So shukr, if you give me something, I'm thanking you for what you've done for me, right? But I'm not thanking you for what you are in yourself. Hamd is both of those. I'm thanking you for what you've done to me, but I'm also praising you for what you are yourself. And then it appears in the form of a masdar. which is something that continuously happens. So the meaning of alhamdu is praise for Allah, for who He is and the actions that He does continuously happening, and it's every single time at every single place. And that's just alhamdu. And then we go to lillah, and then we go to Rabbil Alameen. And Alameen even is not from the Arabic language. The Quran introduced that word into the Arabic language, and the Arabs instantly knew it. Instantly. That's the balagha of the Quran. And if you understand all of this, while you're in salah, and you're thinking about it, and then you think of the response that Allah gives you in salah, Hamadini Abdi, right? My servant has praised me. You will understand how big a qima of seeking knowledge is. Because all throughout salah, we're not absent-minded. We're thinking about what we're saying, and we're thinking about the greatness of what we're saying to Allah. I'll give you another benefit that I heard from a scholar, is that when we say إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, why are we saying نَعْبُدُ and نَسْتَعِينُ? Even if we pray alone, it should be إِيَّاكَ أَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ أَسْتَعِينُ. Right? That's what it should be. He said that the reason is, it's as if we're connecting ourselves with all those people who came before us. The Salihin, the Siddiqeen, the Shuhada, the Nabiyin. We're connecting ourselves with them. And it's as if we're taking all of their worship, we're putting it together, and we're presenting it to Allah, and we're taking our little naqs that we have, and we're just putting it in there, hoping that Allah, we're giving it to Allah, hoping He doesn't take it out and throw it away. When you think about these things in salah, your salah changes. And that's the value of seeking knowledge. That's why a person who tells me I've sought enough knowledge, if Imam Shafi'i says that I'm ignorant every time I learn something new, then what about you?
Very true. Very true. I think one of the things is that when we say things like this, and for me it's very inspirational hearing this and reminding myself of this greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and this information and how it changes the dynamic of who you are as a person. I think that we've become very complacent in our lives these days with seeking the worldly resources that I need rent to be paid, I've got bills to be paid.
We're seeking the immediate effect. You know, what we can see in front of us.
Tangible.
We're not seeking what Allah told us to seek, which is believe. Believe and you'll get it. You'll get it. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about getting it. Just worry on the actions that you put forward. And that's our naqs. That's our deficiency. We're just seeking, because we can see it, that's why we're seeking it.
Interesting. So in this day and age, let's say that most people are focusing on what's tangible as opposed to untangible things.
Yeah.
And for most people, knowledge it brings an untangible result. Like they can't see it.
Yeah, it brings something that, Allah said it in the Quran, no eye has seen it, no ear has heard it. That's what it brings. That's the reward of knowledge. That's why it's so valuable to you. That's why it should be valuable to you.
Okay, so now we've heard about that it's possible to balance seeking knowledge and worldly affairs. We've heard about the importance of it. You're going to say something?
It's not possible to balance seeking knowledge with worldly affairs, except
there's a trade-off.
Okay, there's a trade-off.
Okay.
And you should just know that trade-off is worth it.
Okay. And what are those types of trade-offs, if you can elaborate? I mean, one I could think about is that, for example, if I want myself, trying to seek knowledge and so on and so forth, I have to take from my sleep. That means certain parts of my sleep that I would normally have to have the 8 hours, I don't give the 8 hours. I would study some and then go sleep a little bit later. So a trade-off here is my sleeping time, my rest time.
So there's a brother that I know, Allah Barak, what he has his own business. What he does is he works in the mornings. He works from around 11 to 8 p.m. And then he goes home, he spends it with his family. Then at 12 a.m., he starts just reading. He just keeps reading until Fajr. He goes, he prays Fajr. Then he goes back to sleep. He wakes up and he does it again.
You know what's really interesting about that? There was a recent discussion on the podcast called The Diary of the CEO. And the host of that podcast, he was asked about how he manages his time. And what he says is, what I do is I wake up around 11. And he goes, I work all the way till about 8, 9 o'clock. 8, 9 o'clock, then I'm doing my research, my studying, my marketing, so on and so forth. And I do that all the way till the morning time. AMs, I sleep, and then I do it all again. So you can see that this guy who's become ultra successful in the worldly term is using that same methodology to become successful in what he finds his goal is.
Yeah, he's trading off, right?
He's trading off. Now the question is, how can we as a group of Muslims align our trade-offs to achieve the goal of attaining more knowledge? What's going to be the spark that's going to, start this movement?
The way that you can do that is just by understanding how important knowledge is. If you haven't understood how important something is, you're not ready to sacrifice for it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And the sacrifice itself is not really that big. In the sense of, I'll give you an example. If someone gave you, what's a good car? Bugatti. Someone said to you, listen, I have a Bugatti right here. I'll give you the keys right now. All you need to do is give me $10,000. Whether you have the $10,000 or not, you will frantically run to get that $10,000, right? You will run. You will take loans. You will sacrifice a lot just to get that $10,000, because in your eyes, that Bugatti Veyron is worth what, 2 million or something, right? And the ilm is way more than that.
You know what's really interesting about that example you used, and I want to share this, is that when you mentioned this car, it didn't move me at all.
Really?
It didn't at all. I wouldn't race to get the 10,000. But there are other things that I find valuable that I would race for. And that's comes back to the point is, I don't have knowledge of what this car is. I don't understand how important this car is in the market. Like, why is it valuable? Like, and we find this often. I read stories that someone had an item, it might be a antique, and they just gave it to a charity shop. Someone came in the charity shop and saw it and took it and then sold it for millions because they understand the value of that thing.
Yeah, treasure is in the eye of the beholder. Same like that. Al-ilmu dalatul mu'min. That ilm is the lost treasure of the believer. And he will find it from wherever he gets it. It doesn't matter if the teacher's rude. It doesn't matter if you don't have time. It's your lost treasure. Why would you not go and get it? Someone gave you gold. You'd go run and get it. Yeah. This is lost treasure. It just goes back to the thing of, like you said, I've been on both sides. I have not been able to afford even books, and I've studied. I've not even been able to afford food, and I still studied. And then I went on the other side and I started working, and I had no time for studying. And for me, what is more fulfilling is that, every single time I learn something about the religion, I learn something about Allah, every single time, my whole world perspective changes. That, like, people go for journeys, travels, to years of travel to change one aspect of their world perspective. And every single time I learn something new, it's like, wow, my whole understanding of the world just shifted. I know a bit more truth about the world now. For me, that just seems like, bro, I can't leave that. It's like an addiction.
A healthy addiction.
Yeah. But it's like an addiction.
That's really interesting, because for me, there was a time in life where I was doing some type of business, and you could scale it up, right? And I wasn't. And some people were like, why didn't you scale it up? And I was like, because the whole reason is it frees me up in order to study and to do the lectures and do the classes. I want the business in order to give me enough that I can survive and my family can be survived, and then I can do what I really want to do.
That's a lot of trap. That's a lot of Muslims fall into that trap of, like, I'm doing this in order to give time to my religion, and then they just fall into it and they say, okay, more. And then you see millionaires, and he's like, I was doing this in order to
create free time,
get my religion, understand my religion, but I've not memorized the Quran till now, and I'm like 50 something.
Yes.
And it's just regret after that. But he doesn't understand that if he's sincere and he goes and tries to memorize the Quran now, he could still get it. The doors of knowledge is never closed for you. There are scholars who started at the age of 30 and they became scholars. There are scholars who started at the age of 50 and they still became scholars. The doors of knowledge are never closed. But another thing that I want to talk about is, you said something very profound, is that you had your own business. A lot of Muslims nowadays, they think about, or rather, it's too scary for them to start their own businesses. They'd rather have the 9 to 5 where their hours are restricted. But what they don't realize is that Islam did not come for you to have your life restricted under someone's service. Do you understand? Islam came to create leaders. Islam came to create you as a leader. Muslims should have their own businesses. They should be entrepreneurs. They should be entrepreneurs, giving their time to their business, working, making it big. And then once they have enough, now you can seek knowledge. If that's one way, you don't want to go through the torture of poverty, okay, don't. But at least have an exit strategy. At least have something where it's not continuously clocking in, clocking out, clocking in, clocking out, clocking in, clocking out. When are you going to stop? When are you going to give your time to your religion? When are you going to learn Islam? When are you going to learn about Allah?
What would you say to some of those possibly non-Muslims who are listening and say that they may say that this sounds fanatic, this sounds a bit over the top, God doesn't want us to just be in one box. He's given us life to be free, to enjoy, and so on and so forth. So why you Muslims talk about knowledge is the most important thing and we need to sacrifice everything for it?
I'll tell you something that Allah said. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah did not create jinn kind and mankind except to worship Him. Your whole purpose in life is to worship Him. And in those religions, knowledge is not really valued. It's not valued. They don't want you to have knowledge of their religion, because if you have knowledge of their religion, you'll see how false it is. In Islam tells you, listen, go understand your religion, go seek it, go seek that knowledge in order for you to become better. Islam isn't scared of you learning about it. Do you understand? And it's not fanaticism, because the whole point is for you to become a better person. The more you learn about Islam, the more better of a person you become.
And how is that possible? Some may ask, how is that possible? And I just want to go a little bit backwards, just to explain again that worship in Islam is everything and anything that God the Almighty is pleased with from a person's statements and actions, both inward and outward. So that also includes spending time with your family. That also includes smiling, having good hygiene.
That also includes spending for your family.
Exactly, spending for your family. But I want to mention that because that highlights knowledge. Because if you understand that even having intimate relationship with your spouse in the right way is an act of worship, you can make your whole entire existence an act of worship. But you need knowledge for that.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, a lot of people, a lot of non-Muslims would get weirded out when you say to them, intimacy with my spouse is an act of worship. But that's how Islam is. For every single action that you do correct, every single action in your life, the Prophet ﷺ gave an instruction for. Every single action in your life, there's knowledge for it. Every single action in your life, there's a way to do it. You have to learn it from Islam. There was a point that I wanted to mention. Let's give an example. Let's give a real example of how knowledge can actually change your worship. Knowledge can actually... It's exactly what you said. That every single thing that you do in this life can be an act of worship. You just need knowledge for it. How is the mud? You know what a mud is? It's like the hand, what you can carry in your hand. The hands of a Sahabi, in terms of what they give in charity, is more worth than what we give if we were to give a mountain of gold or 2 mountains. How is that possible?
You're asking?
Just, I was asking you, yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's just possible because of the knowledge that they had of Allah. Because of who they knew. They could see the Prophet
they had of Allah increased their level of sincerity and devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when they did those actions, right, it was from far more sincerity.
It was far more sincerity. That's why the 2 rak'ah that a scholar prays, the 2 units of prayer that a scholar prays is worth more than a lifetime of someone else who's praying. That's unfathomable. How can these 2 units of prayer be worth more than that? Do you get what I'm saying? And the difference is just the knowledge. By the way, when I say knowledge, it's the information that you get and how you implement it. Because there are people in this life, hatta there are non-Muslims, Orientalists, who have unlimited, seemingly unlimited amount of information. They know daqa'iq al-Islam. They know like detailed matters of Islam. It doesn't mean that they have knowledge.
Yeah, this is one point that I wanted to bring up, because we often hear a lot of people quoting and being able to quote books and X, Y, and Z, but if you look at their implementation, it's very weak. And what I mean by weak is that from the heart itself, from the very place where faith is held, they are unable to submit to the commands of Allah easily. They're unable to change their akhlaq and their manners and their mannerisms. They're unable to stay hygienic and clean and well organized, because they're suffering from these, I say, information overload. Yes, he's got a lot of information, he can quote everything and he can argue and debate with you, but that individual, both male and female, aren't changing themselves to become better people, you know? How can we get rid of that sickness?
Yeah, because they misunderstood the goal of knowledge. What's the goal of knowledge? It's khashyatullah.
Yes.
It's fearing Allah. The more you learn, the more you're supposed to fear Allah. That's why Allah said, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَا. The reason that they learned it to have more knowledge of Allah in order to fear Him more. When you're learning knowledge, your intention shouldn't be to debate people. It shouldn't be to quote things. This is not the intention of knowledge. The intention of knowledge is in order for you to become closer to Allah, for you to learn more about Allah, for you to fear Allah more. That's why the scholars said that the highest form of knowledge is the names and attributes of Allah. That's the highest form of knowledge. It's because the more you learn about it, the more you fear Allah.
I just want to make a point here. You've mentioned fear of Allah a lot. And we know that maybe someone listening said, oh, I've got to fear God. God's loving, God's all this. So how can we combine between love, fear, and hope? Because there is an analogy that's like an eagle, right?
It's a bird.
A bird, yes. Yeah, a bird. And what is that analogy?
So the analogy is that these 3 things exist in a relationship such that hope is the center of the bird. Love is the center of the bird. You love Allah, and that's why you're doing this. But you have to balance on both wings, fear and hope. You know, your fear of Allah should be there, and your hope of Allah should be there. So that if your fear overcomes, but your hope comes, so you're not depressed. And your hope is more, but also your fear is there. So you don't do whatever you want. And that's the whole point of this relationship. Is that at the end of the day, the reason that you're here, the reason that you're doing this, the reason that you study about Islam is because you love Allah. But at the same time, you're balancing hope and fear.
What about some individuals who know that knowledge raises the status of every individual, and they seek it knowing full well that their status may increase? Because we have a unfortunate culture among some nations that when their children are not successful in school, they put them with the Quran because they'll get honor through the Quran. What are the kind of things we should understand about this action, and how should we correctly approach this?
You know, the scholars said that we started, and these are from the Salaf, the scholars said that we started seeking knowledge for ourselves in order to raise in status and etc. And then we found the khashya of Allah. So they just need to keep seeking knowledge, and they'll find the fear of Allah. They'll find who Allah is. They just need to keep seeking knowledge. Every single student of knowledge, when he starts seeking knowledge, he thinks he's all that.
Yes.
And then he seeks knowledge more, and then he says, oh, okay, I wasn't all that, I was ignorant. And then he seeks knowledge more, and then he says, oh, okay, bro, I was really ignorant. And then he seeks knowledge more, and then he says, I was the most ignorant of the people.
And he realizes himself in relation to the one who's, you know, he is the creator of the heavens and
The owner of knowledge.
the owner of knowledge and the owner of everything. So
You know, it's
he
like
puts
Imam
himself-
Shafi'i said that every single time I learn something, I realize how ignorant I was before. That's exactly it. That's how it is. For those people who, you know, they think that their status will raise and etc. And their status does raise, but it's more from a universal point of view than a specific point of view. Because you being honored because you've memorized the Quran is something that Allah is giving you. It's not something that the people are giving you. It's not something that there's a prize for memorizing the Quran. Do you get it? So for those people, I would just say keep studying.
Okay.
My brother, keep studying.
Inshallah. So I've got a 9-to-5 job and I've got a family to feed, a large family. And I want to be one of those people who know my Lord better, know how to serve the community better. So that means I need to have more knowledge. What are some of the practical steps that I can do today in order to change my mind state, or the mindset I have, and also the direction I have in order to achieve this goal?
Well, the first thing is your intention. You need to understand that you are solely seeking knowledge for the sake of Allah. You're not seeking it for anything else. But also, your intention should be to correct yourself. You're not correcting anyone else with this knowledge. You're not correcting, you know, the people, or you're not going to be a da'i, etc. You are just seeking knowledge to correct yourself, your actions, your heart, your relationship with Allah. That's what your intention should be. So first, start off with sincerity. The second thing is practically cut out at least 15 minutes. You know, it might not seem a lot, but 15 minutes, that's a lot of time. Over time, that's a lot of time. 15 minutes in your day, and learn about the manners of seeking knowledge. Because the one who doesn't have manners, Allah doesn't give him knowledge. Learn about the manners that you need to have in seeking knowledge. Once you've learned that and you finish that, go through books. I'm saying, like, go through books like Ta'zeem al-Ilm, Hilyat al-Talib al-Ilm. Go through those books. There's so many lessons on YouTube. Once you finish that, go and learn about the names of Allah, so you can understand Allah. Because now you have the manners to seek knowledge. Now you're learning about Allah directly.
So what is the connection between manners and seeking knowledge? And we know that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, he said that I've only been sent to perfect the good character or conduct of the people.
The good manners.
The good manners of the people, exactly. So what is the direct connection between those two things? Because you find that the people of knowledge, when you sit around them, you learn manners and mannerisms that are quite shocking. And I should mean shocking in a positive way, like how merciful they are with children, how patient they are with everyone, how generous they are, you know, how willing they are to give their time to others, how, you know, organized, well-mannered, you know, all these sort of things. And how is that why is that a criteria for knowledge? And why did this knowledge kind of build this?
You know, one of the mashayikh I was sitting with, I found him after Salah and he was doing his dhikr. So I turned to talk to him. I was like, wow, I didn't know you were here. What were you doing here? Do you know what he did? He turned his whole body to me. When we're sitting down, we're doing our adhkar, and he turned his whole body to face me. And all I can understand from that is that this man is he's a perfect embodiment of what the Prophet ﷺ came with. You know, the manners that the Prophet ﷺ showed is the highest of manners. And the Prophet ﷺ would turn his whole body to face the people. And that's exactly what knowledge should do. It has to come to correct your manners, because your manners are a form of worship to Allah. Your manners are first. As a student of the knowledge, that one day will come where you will have to push this knowledge out. The poet, he said, وَكُلُّ إِنَاءٍ فِيهِ يَنْضَحُ. Everything that's inside a vessel will sprinkle out of it. So one day will come where you'll be full of knowledge, where you have to sprinkle it out. But no one will learn from you because of your manners.
True.
The manners is what beautifies the knowledge. You know, you have this gold inside, but you need it in a nice case for people to be attracted to it, because they don't see the gold inside. They see the case first.
Yes, very true.
That's the importance of manners.
Would you say that also that the veneration of this information that Allah descended onto this earth, He only allows it to go into the ones that are, or the vessels that are clean and are able to present it in the right manner?
Yeah, that's not really presented in the right manner, but the ones who've cleaned themselves from all types of halal and ghil, the ones who've cleaned themselves from types of bad manners, jealousy, etc. All of these things, bad dealings, bad attitudes towards people. And that's the thing, that Allah will give you knowledge for as long as your manners are good with Him and with the people.
This is very, very interesting, because we see in this day and age, people are killing one another. They're oppressing one another.
They're fighting with one another.
They're cheating one another.
Fist fighting.
They're fighting in the street. They are defecating in where I come from. They're defecating in the street in front of everyone. They're exposing parts of their body that are not supposed to be exposed. They're sensitive and they're supposed to be kept safe. We find that the manners of the people is falling into disarray. And
that they start acting like animals.
Exactly, such that they start acting like animals. And what we see here is that fundamentally we have a framework, we have a criterion, we have a book, we have guidance from the one who gave us life in the first place of how to live a complete existence in the best form of manners, but it takes seeking knowledge in order to achieve it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if people didn't have knowledge, they would be animals. What is the thing that differentiates an animal from a person? It's the knowledge that they have, and that acting upon the knowledge and not acting upon their instincts. Animals act upon their instincts. People act upon knowledge. And when you remove knowledge from the people, they do what? They act upon their instinct.
Yes, right.
And they become animals.
SubhanAllah. This is very true. So give some closing words to the people who may be listening, who tuned in, who've heard this information. They've heard the value of knowledge and how Islam really venerates knowledge for both men and women. We have to make it mention. And maybe actually you can end on some of those women who gained and disseminated the knowledge, and how it impacted the community.
A lot of a lot of people think that seeking knowledge is a man's thing. It's not. It's for both men and women. There are women today, not women today. Actually, there are women today, but I don't want to focus on that. There are women who, because of her, Sahih Bukhari came to us. If she wasn't there, learned hadith, became a scholar, we would not have Sahih Bukhari. That's mad. Think about it. What's the most authentic book after the Quran?
Sahih Bukhari.
And it's only because of a woman that it came to us. So women, please seek knowledge. You have the free time. You have the
Our mother
resources.
Aisha, right? She was a teacher of
She
over
was a
1,000.
scholar.
Yeah.
She was a scholar. That's exactly right. There are women today who are alive authoring books, and their books are amazing. I want to mention one, the scholar Dr. Kamila Kuwairi. Her sharh on Kitab al-Tawheed, her sharh on the Mu'allaqat al-Ashara. She's mutafannin. Almost any science, she has a book on it. Wow. That's amazing. More sisters need to be like that. And her face is her face is nowhere. You cannot find her face anywhere. She doesn't give lessons except private lessons in Kuwait.
MashaAllah. What's really fascinating about that is that we cover this in education, and we talk all this about societal roles. Now we know that the first school of the children is the mother. So in order for that mother to be the best of mothers, the best influence and change in society. And why do I say change in society? Because if you're producing children who are upright in manners, in knowledge, free thinkers, very smart, very well presented, you're creating members of the community who have those qualities, who then disseminate more into the community, are the mothers. So seeking knowledge for women is very vital.
One of the things that scholars say is that a mother is a generation. A mother is a generation. That's why the first thing that non-Muslims came to corrupt were the women. Because once you've corrupted the women, once you've corrupted that structure, that household, you've corrupted generations after that. because all those women are generations after that. Now one of the things that I spent when I was in Gambia, I spent time in a woman's orphanage. In that woman's orphanage, they would take the orphans and they would teach them Quran, and they would teach them how to become wives.
Wow.
And they teach them Arabic. I was like, wow, that's such an amazing project.
Mm.
Because they are literally creating generations that will come after with the same Quran, with the same Arabic, with the same teachings of how to be a wife, and doing islah of the society. They're literally correcting that society. That blew me away. That was one of the things that just changed my world perspective. Like, there are things in my life, knowledge and then experiences, and this was one of those experiences that just changed my world perspective. I was like, that was mind-changing for me.
Wow. So I think we've covered a lot of information, and it's been a very fruitful discussion. I would like you to give just a few final words of advice to those who could be watching to close on, inshallah.
It's like I said before. Correct your intention, correct your manners, then learn about Allah. Correct your intention, correct manners, and then learn about Allah. And Allah will bless you. Allah will bless you into learning more and more and more and more. Like the line of poetry of Waqi' said to Imam Shafi'i, that the light of Allah doesn't come in the vessel that is sinful. Once you start correcting that, the light of Allah will come, and the light of Allah is knowledge.
Excellent. So there you have it. We have revelation, we have guidance. God the Almighty Allah, He said in His blessed book, this is a book, in it is no doubt a guidance for those who are conscious of Him. But how can we become conscious of Him if we don't know what's inside of this book? If we don't have information, if we don't have knowledge of what the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, shared, taught, advised, prohibited, and lived amongst those great companions who followed him. So it's our duty to seek knowledge today and make it a priority so that we can become the best versions of ourselves tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. And that's all for today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.